thank you all for being here. I'll start with a few questions. First for Spike, maybe you could just start by talking about the initial impulse. A lot of people, when we first heard the premise of the film, talked about,
You're doing great.
I won't direct any questions at you, just talked about Siri, but I know that you had in mind a more ancient artificial intelligence program, and this is in fact a film that you've been thinking about for a while. Can you talk about what sparked it to begin with?
Yeah, the initial idea was just the initial sort of spark, I guess, was like an article I saw online where you link to an instant message. I don't know if I've ever told you this. Did I tell you this? Okay. You could have an instant message with an artificial intelligence, and you could send a message, say, hey, so I went to this, I linked to it. It was like, it might have been called Alice Bot for one of those like 10 years ago. And I said, hello, and it's like, how are you? Like, good. How are you? Oh, I'm not so good. A little tired. It's like, oh, that's too bad. And I was like, had like a little exchange. I was like, kind of like I had this buzz of, wow, I'm talking to this thing. This thing is listening to me. And then quickly it sort of devolved into like, you could tell it was just sort of parroting things that it heard before, and it wasn't intelligent, but it was a clever program. But then I didn't really think about it for a long time, and then eventually I thought about the idea of a man having a relationship with an entity like that, with really fully formed consciousness, and thought about the idea of what would happen if you really had a real relationship, and use that as a way to write a relationship movie and love story. How'd I do? Thanks.
Spike, between Where the Wild Things Are and this film, you actually made a wonderful short film called I'm Here, starring Andrew Garfield, another LA love story about robots. And I wonder, was that in any way, do you see that as in some way related to this? That's also a film in which romantic and existential matters are kind of connected. I was wondering if you were working on them at the same time.
Yeah, I was already making notes for this movie, and I got the opportunity to do that. And it was after Wild Things, which was a 5-year movie, so the idea of just going to a short film in a few months was really appealing. And but yeah, I guess it's related in that it's a love story, and it's a love story. It's an LA love story, but it's more about sort of a love story that could happen. It's more about love in your early 20s and what love is to characters at that point in their life.
You just said that you're going to do a short film in a few months. I can only do a short film in a few months.
How long do normal short films take?
I think it's less than that.
Yeah. Joaquin is commenting that even my short films take a long time. Actually, what's sad is actually it was probably 5 months to make that short film. Not even. Thank you.
Since we do have this amazing cast with us, I would actually love to hear you all talk about, I don't know if you've actually had a chance to see the finished film yet. I know you literally just finished it. So if you could talk about at least your response to the script initially.
Joaquin?
Yes, Spike.
What was your response to the script initially?
I liked it.
Amy?
I also liked it. I think I met with Spike before I read the script, so I was more into Spike's vision. It was compelling, and it was at a time where I was really busy and I had a baby, and I was like, I don't have it in me to do a film right now, but every time I met with Spike, I couldn't say no because his vision was so beautiful, and it so was in line with kind of issues I was dealing with. That's the great thing about this film. I think everyone finds a piece of their own issues in it, and so I just couldn't say no, and I just had to work with Spike. And
You could say no, though. You could. You could have said no.
He looks really sweet, but he's very insistent.
No, it's more that I pretended like I was about to cry and she said no and I felt too guilty.
Rooney and Olivia?
Yeah, I really liked it too. I had to actually beg Spike for the part though. I didn't have the option of saying no. I had to kind of beg you for it. It worked.
I loved the script. Everybody else was already in place. I loved it, and I loved that this supporting role was another piece of the puzzle that Spike needed, and I wanted to figure out exactly what he needed to serve this story, to make it complete, and to create something for Theodore to bounce off of, to then fall in love with Samantha. I thought how interesting. It's kind of the experience that pushes him into this deep love, and so I just wanted to be able to make it work the way it needed to work for the story. And then Spike and I read for like an hour and a half, and had so much fun with it. And even after that experience, I was like, if that's it, that's already great. I already loved this experience. But getting to go to China for a week and hang out with these guys was pretty amazing.
Spike, can you talk a bit about this very specific, detailed near future world that you created with your longtime production designer, Barrett, and there's so many details in the film design-wise, and also combining Los Angeles with the exteriors in Shanghai?
Yeah, I think the initial idea was to try to make this sort of future, future LA that felt nice to be in and nice to live in, and sort of playing off of just the fact that our world is getting nicer and nicer to live in like New York, Los Angeles, and especially LA, where the weather is so nice and there's great food and the mountains are there and the ocean is there, and but it's still even in that sort of setting, it can feel very isolated and lonely, and that seemed like an interesting setting, and actually I met the architects that we did Lincoln Center and did the Highline, Liz and Rick, and they and this was when I was writing the script, so I was still trying to figure out what it was, and I just got the opportunity to meet them and go to their office and talk to them, and Liz had gone to film school. She was before she became an architect, so she was very interesting to talk to, because she came from architect but also storytelling, and I remember asking her about like what the future could look like, and she asked a really simple question, which was, well, is it a utopian future or a dystopian future? And I started sort of saying, what I was imagining, like I had this sort of idea of like the colors from Jamba Juice, and and she's like, okay, and then she started giving ideas and talking about stuff, and then it was really that sort of basic question that she asked that gave like sort of made it concrete in a way, like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm making this sort of utopian future that even in this world, there's, I guess to feel lonely in that setting is kind of even worse, because it's like a world where you should be getting everything, maybe seemingly.
Can you, maybe Joaquin, if you feel like joining in, talk a bit about... Sure. About working with the invisible lead actress, leading lady, which I know it's already been documented in the press that there was Samantha Morton played the part initially, and then Scarlett Johansson was recast. The challenges of acting opposite somebody who's not physically present.
Are they all going to? Have you seen the movie?
They were just here.
But you
yes.
just saw the
They
movie?
just saw
Okay, this makes sense now. Well, I want to say that I train really hard, and I did a bunch of work, but I'm an actor, so I'm accustomed to walking around my house and kind of talking to myself. It's kind of, you rehearse all the time, and so I don't think it was that similar.
You did it.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take some questions. Yes?